Welcome to this week's show where we will be starting soon. Got some music playing first.
Some Scandinavian techno.
Is the name of this artist?
Well, it's spelled Jonsi, but it's probably like Yonzi or something like that. So.
We're listening to Spotify again, like we always do. If you haven't jumped on Spotify yet, you need to.
Yeah. Earlier today in my office, we were playing a little game. We just go around, the three of us, and we'll take turns playing a song out loud. So if you work with other people, you can have a little music game at work.
Yep. Alright. We are going to start on time. Okay, so we're going to get started with the show. My name's Rob Wormley.
And I'm Jeremy Anderberg.
And we are project managers for a company called One Social Media. We are here every week, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. to talk about social media, different trends, technology, anything that we've been talking about in the office or that you've been asking us about. So what's on the agenda for this week?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about some ways to kickstart your social media. And part of the reason for this is that I know even for me personally, there are times where I get kind of disillusioned with social media, even working for a social media company. And I'm sure other of us in the office can say that. You know, it's easy when you first start out to be super excited, to be gung-ho, to be posting all the time. But then, you know, after a couple months, maybe your expectations were too high, whatever the case may be. Maybe you can't think of any new ideas to post for content, whatever the case may be, but you might just kind of become a little bit discouraged. And we want you to know that that's totally normal. It's acceptable. It happens to probably all of us with, a lot of things in life. So there are ways to kind of get back on track and hop on that train again.
I think this is especially the case for businesses who are new to social media because, like Jeremy said, it can be exciting to jump on board with social media and finally get your Facebook page and your Twitter account set up and you're gung-ho about it. But after a few weeks when maybe you're not seeing the interaction that you wanted and maybe some businesses are frustrated because they're not making sales directly from social media within the first few weeks of getting on.
Yeah.
And so they get discouraged and they decide to, maybe not focus on Twitter anymore, maybe go back to what's comfortable with them, use, the traditional marketing or sales methods and, kind of push social media to the back burner again because it's just too much work or it's just tiring not seeing the results that you wanted. So we're going to talk about ways that you can jumpstart your social media again and get excited like you were when you started. So
yeah, absolutely. So the first thing, first of all, I want to just acknowledge that this article came from online. What we're basing this off is from a blog from a company called Buffer Apps. So we're kind of taking their outline and kind of reworking it and all that. So just want to make sure I give credit to them first. So the first thing, though, to do is to stop just posting and really start communicating. Really that's kind of the whole idea of social media, isn't it? It's to be able to communicate with the people around you, communicate with long lost friends, communicate with even those random people who are in your industry on Twitter or whatever. And so really, instead of just posting, instead of just advertising, or even instead of just posting links, that may be other articles from around the web, start interacting. And one of the biggest things that will grow your Twitter following and your presence, especially on Twitter and also Facebook, is to just kind of play outside of your own sandbox. We've talked about that before. And what that means is to go and mention people, start conversations with people, retweet some of the people in your industry. And if you're mentioning people and if you're really starting to have two-way communication, you'll get out of that rut of not necessarily seeing any interaction. Because if you don't start it, it might not necessarily come to you back. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes is that people just, okay, so we'll start posting and then they'll expect to get immediate interaction. But if you're not doing things to engage or initiate that interaction, people just aren't going to have any reason to.
I think there are two questions you have to ask yourself here. One is, am I a billboard? And two is, am I a megaphone? Yeah. So what I mean by that is kind of what Jeremy was talking about too. If you're a billboard, all you're doing is you're promoting your products and you're trying to get people to learn more about your business, which we've talked plenty of times before on the show about not being solely promotional on places like Twitter and Facebook. And the second one was, am I being a megaphone, which means maybe you're not being promotional like a billboard, but still you're only going as far as to publish your message, and that's it. You don't care what people have to say about it. You don't want to know what people have to say about it. You just want to do it so it's there and be happy to see it.
Yeah, you want to think of it as opposed to just standing on a street corner shouting with a megaphone. Think of it like more of sitting down for coffee with a friend. You want to, yes, take time to talk, but also take time to listen. It's very much a two-way conversation. I think that's kind of one of the first places where businesses will miss out with their social media.
And what you'll find is that, you'll get away from the burnout that you were feeling before once you start interacting with people, because people will be generally interested in what you have to say. They'll want to interact with you. And you'll start feeling good again about the time and resources that you're spending on social media.
Yeah. So what's number 2, Rob?
All right. So number 2 in the article that we read was draw inspiration from people you respect. And so I think this is good to do, especially if you're a business and you have a very niche field or a target audience that you're trying to interact with. It can be really important to try to find the people that you just respect on social media or just in the world in general.
Yeah, here I have an example of this here at One Social Media and working with some of my own clients is that I tend to, in my own personal life, be reading books on leadership or business or whatever. And so currently I'm reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, very, of course, well-known book, kind of famous around the world. And I really enjoy it. There's quotes that I really enjoy from it that I'll write down in my journal. And I'll actually post those for some of my clients who are also kind of more in the business world, because it's something that I'm personally inspired by. And so I'm kind of, taking the risk and assuming that other people will also be inspired by it. So I'll post those quotes. And oftentimes that stuff is what gets liked and gets commented back, gets retweeted the most out of anything I do. And that's, almost directly stemming from what gives me inspiration. And, we're working with companies that have outsourced their social media to us. And so there's a good chance that for your own company that, if you're posting things that inspire you, that people will respond.
And basically what else it's doing is it's creating a connection that you might not have otherwise had with people who are either new to interact with you or people who just haven't really been paying as much attention as you would have liked them to. If you can do something like that, it's really going to get the conversation moving and show that you have the same interests as the people that you are connected with on social media.
Yeah, and the great thing about Twitter and Facebook, YouTube, all that, is that you have the chance to really actually connect with those people who inspire you. So in our world, there are people like Chris Brogan and Brian Solis and Gary Vaynerchuk. These are people who are very active on social media and will very much be in conversation with the people they're following. And so you can really even kind of get encouraged that way. Try to reach out to some of your industry influencers, and you'd be surprised, I think, at how much interaction you'll get back. And so you can even, be sure to mention them, be sure to tag their pages on Facebook, and, again, you might be surprised at a response that you might get.
Yep. All right, so number 3.
So number 3, this is kind of talking about, we've talked about this before, but really it's just keep variety in your posting. The headline for this third bullet point is deviate from the standard. And so what they mean is, and this kind of relates back to number 1, but you don't want to just be pushing your own message, your own industry even. Every once in a while, you have to have some fun. If you're a business owner, one of the things that'll get the most attention, believe it or not, is you once a week posting something just a little bit more personal. You don't have to be posting pictures of your family or whatever. Maybe you just say, hopping on a plane to Atlanta. Have you been there? What do you think? It's not really directly related to your business, but it's something that people will be interested in, and we can almost guarantee that that'll be a post that gets a lot of interaction.
Yeah, we've talked a lot on the show in the past about post variety and quality of posts, and one of my favorite types of posts that I see for pages that I follow or people that I follow on social media is the behind-the-scenes photos. I mean, that's huge for me. It's just kind of a fun thing that you can see, your NFL team or your favorite author, and they post a picture of something that they're doing that you otherwise wouldn't have known about or seen if you weren't connected with them on Facebook. So it's a really nice way to just keep things interesting and just deviate from what everyone else is doing, which is, just posting the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and if you keep up with One Social Media on Facebook or Twitter, you'll notice that we actually post those photos relatively frequently. We just had a team meeting here in this very conference room earlier this week. One of our team members, Taylor, got up, took a picture of it, posted it on Facebook, and it got comments. And you'd be amazed because it's all of us just sitting around on our computers in a conference room. It's not all that exciting, but it's a post that for us is guaranteed to get a few comments every single time. I think the reason for that is just because people like to see what you're doing. They like to see how you're spending your day. I think a lot of times with companies there's kind of a mystery of what goes on behind the scenes, and this is a very easy way to just give people a quick look into what you're doing.
Right. They want to see that you're actually real people behind the business part of what you're doing on social media. They want to see you. They want to get to know you. So.
Yep.
All right. So talk about number 4 a little bit.
Fourth point is just to simply persevere. It's a very, very good bullet point. I think, it's easy, again, to have, kind of said at the beginning, it's easy to have very high expectations of your social media, but the reality is that it takes time. Especially if you're starting from scratch, it's very easily going to take between 6 months to a year to start gaining traction. I have a lot of accounts now been working on for 6 months. It's kind of easy to get discouraged the first few months. You're not seeing much growth. But after 6 months of consistently @tagging, of retweeting, of being sure to tag businesses on Facebook, now we're starting to see some of those growth results that we're looking for. And so I guess the big thing for me to say is to just keep pressing on and know that it takes time. And we can guarantee that if you are doing the right things, if you're spicing up your posts with variety, if you're doing the mentioning, the tagging, if you're finding the influencers, you will find that momentum that you're looking for. It's just a matter of time.
I think a key thing to remember here is being patient on social media and understanding that it takes time doesn't mean setting up your Facebook page or your Twitter profile and leaving it alone for 6 months, which is really easy for a lot of people and companies to do, I think, is, they're scrambling to get on social media. Everyone's wanting them to be on social media, and so they jump in, they dive in. They weren't really ready. They didn't have a plan. So they have their Facebook page set up. They have their Twitter account set up, and then it kind of just, it sits there, and they're not being consistent with it. And so you have to understand that if you are willing to be patient, you have to also be willing to do the work, like Jeremy's talking about, in order to see the results. Because you can go 6 months and not spend the time or effort on your social media, and you probably won't see anything. But if you can persevere and stay consistent and do the work and have variety, all those things, you will start to see the rewards of all that work. So.
Yep, absolutely. So that brings us to our 5th and final point of today's show, and this headline says, take a break. And I'm not sure that that's right for our context. For businesses to just take a break from social media might not be the best idea. As you don't want to give fans kind of an expectation of what you're doing and then just kind of drop it. So I would amend it to say, take it small chunks at a time. So, here at One Social Media, we work with Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, blogging, LinkedIn, VU, Ustream, Flickr. I mean, there's just tons of different social media networks that we work with. And so, for us to say that you need to go out and be on social media is very understandably overwhelming. You don't even know what some of those are that we listed off. And, a couple months ago, we didn't either. So we're even trying to learn here, and it's kind of overwhelming to us at times. So, really, first of all, just go register for accounts for all those places, just so you have it, so you have your name there, so you have, if nothing else, just a place for people to see that you're there. But then, take it one network at a time. Figure out what it means to be a business page on Facebook. Kind of learn how to fit that into your schedule, get it rocking. Once you have that kind of set, you have that strategy set, then move to Twitter. And then kind of keep repeating until you really have an awesome strategy that's incorporating 5-6 different social media networks.
Right. I think if I had to add one thing to this list, I think number 5 is important, everything that Jeremy said, but if I had to add one thing to this list, it would be don't be afraid to try things on social media, because the biggest thing that we deal with clients and with consulting with people is they're just too afraid to have the interaction, too afraid that people aren't going to like what they're going to say, they're not going to get it, they're not going to relate to it, and so it just ends up hurting them in the end, because instead of trying and either learning from something that didn't work or going forward with something that did work. They just don't try it all because they're too scared, and they really don't get anywhere. So I would say social media is a great opportunity for you to try things. And we've talked a lot about it before in past shows about how you can use social media and your community online to kind of test different things about your company, different ideas. It's kind of just an informal way to have, that focus group type setting that you might have looked for in the past, but you don't really want to spend the money on right now. So yeah, I would just say try new things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add to the list that you don't want to be afraid of asking questions. I think you kind of might get stuck in this mindset that you're almost too much of a newbie. You don't want to feel like the one who's kind of missing out on what's going on. You don't want to ask what is social media, because we've had that question before. And so really don't be afraid to ask questions. You can find us on Facebook or Twitter. You can even give us a phone call if you want to. You can find our number on our website, onesocialmedia.com. But there is no question that has been unasked in our company.
Right.
Really, I just can't think of any social media question that hasn't been asked to us by clients. And so don't be afraid to just kind of, like Rob said, to jump in and try things out and ask questions, all that. So.
All right, so this article that we went through today, we actually shared it on our Facebook page yesterday.
We did.
Jeremy did. And so if you want to check it out, facebook.com/onesocialmedia. If you're not watching our show from our page, which next time you tune in, you should definitely do watch it on our page.
Yep.
But check the article out, and then send us a comment on what you thought about the article, about the show, questions you have, anything like that. We'd love to keep the conversation going on this topic because it's an interesting topic and there's a lot to say about it. So.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll see you next week, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Central Time.
See you later.